Very tense and complicated relationship between the United States and Iran is even more tense, more complicated. Today, the U.S. has stationed warships off the coast of Yemen. The ships, along with allied vessels, are there to keep Iran from supplying weapons to the Shiite Houthi rebels fighting in Yemen. All this is unfolding as talks on a nuclear deal with Iran are resuming in Vienna. Joining us now to help sort through all of this is Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff of California. He's the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, thanks very much for coming in. You got to be concerned, even though there's no great desire, there's no desire at all for a real confrontation between the U.S. and Iran off the coast of Yemen. It's possible.
Oh, it's certainly possible, and who knows what kind of hotheads you might have on some of these Iranian ships and whether they may choose this as an opportunity to strike a blow at the great Satan. So hard to tell. We're obviously there to, I think, have the back of our Gulf and other allies in the region, as well as to try to have a show of force. There are UN resolutions that prohibit Iran from arming the Houthis. Nonetheless, they have been arming the Houthis.
You know that for sure. Because the Iranians deny.
Yes.
They say they're only sending in humanitarian aid to the Houthis and to others in Yemen. They deny they're providing weapons.
I don't believe it, and I think there's credible evidence that they have been providing weapons. That's not the same as to say that they've been controlling the Houthis all along, and you can easily, I think, overstate the Iranian role in Yemen. But it's certainly true that they've been providing military advice as well as military aid. The
commander of the Iranian Navy has been saying that the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, they're to blame, and he's been pretty vociferous in the condemnation of the United States, even while they want to deal with the U.S. in Vienna on these nuclear negotiations. I call it compartmentalization. There's something weird here, though, right?
Well, there are lots of different compartments, because you're absolutely right. We've got a compartment where you have the nuclear negotiations. You've got the compartment where we have a conflict over Yemen. You have the compartment where we have a conflict in Syria, and we have another compartment where we have deconfliction going on in Iraq. So it's enormously complex, but that's just life in the region.
Two senators, Marco Rubio, Florida, Mark Kirk of Illinois, they're demanding as part of any nuclear deal, and there's no nuclear deal yet, we'll see if there will be by the end of June, as part of any nuclear deal, the Iranians have to release that Washington Post reporter, Jason Rezaian, and other Americans who are held right now in Iran. That's got to be a quid pro quo. You buy that?
Well, I don't think that's the approach the administration is taking, but they are raising the issue of these American hostages, I think, at every opportunity when they're interacting with the Iranians. So it is very much a priority for the administration. At the same time, I'm not sure that they want these to be a bargaining chip for Tehran to drive a tougher nuclear negotiation and hold these as hostages to the nuclear talks. So it's a difficult situation, but certainly we're trying to do everything we can to get them freed.
Because as I've been saying, they stand to gain billions and billions of dollars immediately with frozen assets that are about to be lifted. Why not say to them, you know what, you're going to get a lot of money, release these Americans, that's the least you can do.
Well, I think the administration is certainly raising this, urging them to do so.
But they say they're not linking it to the nuclear negotiations, just as they say they're not demanding that Iran accept Israel's right to exist as part of the nuclear negotiations. They say that the nuclear negotiations are simply focused on the nuclear negotiations, other political issues not part of the deal.
I think that's true, and I think they're trying to maintain the solidity of the nuclear negotiations and not have it disrupted by bringing in other issues in the region, as vital as they are. And also, while they want to continue raising these hostage issues, they don't want it to be a chit the Iranians can play. And I think the harder we press them in some respects, the harder the pushback, and the more the Iranians think this is really valuable, these hostages are really valuable, we should keep them because we can exact more from the Americans.
You've heard the argument that the criticism of the Obama administration is that they seem to want a deal more than the Iranians want a deal. You accept that?
I don't accept that, and I do understand that criticism, and I understand the concern that some have that is the administration trying too hard, that they need this too much as a legacy. The reality is the Iranians are deeply hurt economically. I think their whole regime is about perpetuation of the regime, and to the degree the economy becomes a liability and threatens them, it drives them to the table. That's why they're at the table. But I don't think it's true that we want it or need it more than they do.
Congressman Schiff, thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks,
Adam Schiff is the ranking member of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence.